Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, here in New York City. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're following this last Power Panel of the day out there on SYS-CON TV via the World Wide Web. We have gotten to the end of day 3 at 10th Cloud Expo New York. You're all to be congratulated. You must have incredible stamina, as has this, yes, gallimaufry collection of gentlemen. Apologize, there are no ladies on this panel. I'm not quite sure how that could have happened. We are going to look, if you recall, let's just remind them, because they've probably forgotten, at what's working, well, we probably should cover what's not, but you're not going to talk about it. We're going to be looking at what's next. We're going to be looking at what's new. So let's first figure out why we've invited this gallimaufry of people here. We're going to have them introduce themselves, starting with you, Vineet, and we'll come this way in a wave, sort of Mexican wave.
Good evening, folks. My name is Vineet Tyagi. I work for a company called Impetus. I head the innovation labs at Impetus. We're a consulting services company providing services in the cloud computing, big data, mobility space. We also have a bunch of products, big data cluster management, mobile test automation that we also license and sell.
So Impetus does all kinds of things. Frank.
How are you?
Well, all the better for seeing you on the Power Panel,
Thanks
Frank.
for having me.
But why are you here?
I'm here because you invited me here, so thanks for having me. I'm Frank Martinez. I'm the co-founder and the chief strategy officer for ServiceMesh. We're an enterprise cloud application platform company, and that's all we do. So it's the singular thing that we're focused on. Well, it's the one thing that we're focused on. So
that's a good thing. Focus is good. Wayne.
Thanks, Jeremy. Wayne Ariola. I'm with Parasoft, 25-year-old organization in the testing space. So we're focused on functional testing, cloud, and service virtualization, which is really our next phase of the operation.
All good. All good. Bob, next in line.
I am Bob Wicklund. I am a solution architect for a little company called McAfee, which, as people have passed by our booth, apparently was surprised that we are now a wholly owned subsidiary of Intel. A lot of people didn't know that. Obviously, I specialize in web security, web gateway, cloud, and on-premise.
A little company called McAfee. What's your little company called, Govind?
As
if we can't see from the shirt.
It's a little company, but it's a well-known company, by the way. I'm Govind Rangasamy. I run product management for Eucalyptus Systems. I don't know how many of you know about Eucalyptus Systems. Great. We provide infrastructure as a service platform. It's a software platform on your own hardware, right, which is compatible with Amazon Web Services API. Pretty much, you take Amazon Web Services API, implement it for your own hardware. And apparently, we have about 25,000 clouds started every year, right, on Eucalyptus. So it's pretty good so far.
Not a bad metric, is it? Darryl.
Hey, my name is Darryl Brown. I'm a CMO with a company called Appcore. We actually deliver the complete business of cloud computing. So I deliver a hardware, software package that's completely customized. We call it data center rolling ready, installed, up and running, so you can take in orders within 45 days, including everything you need: marketing materials, branding, packaging, training, and it's provided as a managed service. We do that for data centers, telcos, guys like that, and believe it or not, a lot of IT departments as well.
And last but definitely not least, Ken.
Hello, I'm Ken Guiberson. I'm CTO for EffectiveUI. We're a user experience agency. We focus on researching, designing, and creating applications and digital products. And our technical reach is deep into the stack, and we find ourselves reaching into the cloud often.
All right. Well, so 7 somewhat disparate participants. So my office betted me, my back office, I won't tell you in what currency or how much, that it was completely inconceivable that 7 gentlemen like yourselves would agree on anything. Who knows? We'll find out when I ask you this. If I contended that one thing you're certain to agree on is that the cloud should be open, have I won my bet or not? Vineet. You can be really brief on this.
Yes.
Yes, Frank?
Absolutely.
Oh, my money, my money.
3 for 3.
3 for 3. Sorry, it's just private. It was quite a lot of money.
Yes.
Govind?
Yes.
Yep.
Right?
Most definitely.
So that was easy, right? Now, what's more difficult? What's the cloud not at the moment that it needs to be? Who wants to go first? Wayne. Oh, you see, they're so contrary. Wayne, what is it not that it needs to be?
Accepted, meaning that we have a huge gap between what is accepted in terms of risk and what kind of risk organizations are willing to accept.
Wow, that is big and concise. Who else was there jumping in? Oh, wow, the cloud is not so many things. Ken?
I'd have to say understood. It's a difficult place to be a shopper in this market, and your understanding of the cloud is only as fresh as your understanding today. The industry is not waiting for you to understand it, so understood.
Okay, wow, this is better than I'd ever hoped for. Darryl?
It's not yet a utility. I don't see that the cloud is a utility as in, cloud should be like electricity. You turn on a light bulb, you turn it off, and everybody's not quite there yet. Some people are, some people are not.
Govind?
Cloud is not virtualization.
You just wanted to say that.
It's
yes.
like,
just
I don't
wanted to
know
make
how many times we have heard this, right? Cloud is not
Not so
virtualization.
much recently,
Right.
Govind. Really not so much. Come on. Fighting yesterday's battle. We know cloud is not virtualization. Bob, what's the cloud not yet? Or
Well, they kind of took what I had in my, so, I mean, it's, it's not
Really fast,
accepted.
dude.
It's not, yeah. They were quick. I couldn't keep up. And I think it's for a combination of a lot of reasons, which we'll probably talk about. But, not being accepted, not being understood, because as we'll probably talk about, no standards. It's not open. It's not where it needs to be yet. It's still
you two have got a tough gig down the end there.
Yeah.
Vineet?
All the thoughts are stolen. Nothing new, but I think I would echo that on the understanding part. It's not very well understood. And it's a big challenge. Everybody wants to understand it, but there's not enough that helps people understand it. So people they reach out to.
Here we are. Let us grasp that nettle.
Yeah.
Frank, I mean, you're probably just agreeing with all those nonsense.
Of course.
There you go. So let's provide some insight. Let us try then. So one of the things that might address all of those is standards. You said it yourself, Bob.
Yeah.
So where are we on that? Let's tell the good people here and the good people following on the web, let's tell them that the standards are all there. It's just a couple of days and we'll all be home and dry, or is it?
Disagree.
Oh dear.
Totally disagree.
Yeah, I don't think
What a
that's where that's where we're short today. I mean, look, standards are always necessary, but they're not sufficient. What we don't have with the cloud today is that it's not approachable from a business perspective. The big long poles
Not
in the
understood.
tent.
It's not approachable. There's a running theme here, huh?
Yeah, the big long poles in the tent, are, compliance, audit,
Totally
procurement, finance.
The big long poles in the tent.
Yep.
Is that an American expression?
Absolutely.
It is now.
The
Yes.
big long, I'm going to have to look
Absolutely.
that up afterwards. Big long poles in the tent. Okay, that's good. And they're missing.
No,
they're not being addressed.
They're there, and they're the ones that
I mean,
they're in the way.
Okay, big long poles in the tent. I've learned something today. That's good. Who agrees or disagrees then with Frank? Oh.
Totally agree. I mean, if the C-level office or the senior management staff can't make a decision around this area and keep their jobs, for example, if we get a data breach, if we get some sort of incident, and I know we will, and there has been, and that's going to reflect back to the management staff, there's just no way we can take the next step. So there needs to be a level of audit, compliance, regulatory guidance that allows this to be an acceptable level of risk, and that can get us to the next step.
So you really think risk is the elephant in the room?
Absolutely.
We're just leaving it alone?
Perception.
Because
Perceived
businessmen
risk.
understand
Perceived
risk.
It's just trust.
Yeah.
It's trust, and it's not it's not a security thing. It's the ability to allow systems of systems, machines, to go and do things that we've traditionally relied on lots of people performing rote tasks to do. And frankly, today machines are actually better at it. They can do it with more predictable outcomes.
I think, sorry, I was just going to jump in.
Is that your brother?
No. But apparently he is now.
There you go.
Or he's looking for a job.
For you, sir.
I think it's kind of changing by market, though. Like, I'm seeing certain markets and certain industries. We try to, in my offering, I can't just go and get Cloud Stack and assume it does everything it needs to do. I've had to integrate components from all over the place to make a fully integrated offering. In certain markets, certain parts of the US, they want to reinvent the wheel. Right? Let's reinvent the wheel. And part of that reinvent the wheel attitude is slowing adoption. And some of it is because I can do it better myself, or this has got to be easy because other people have done it. But in other markets, like in Asia, I'm seeing it getting gobbled up. They're like, you know what, let's not reinvent the wheel. And when we get into the discussion, what do you use? What's your hardware? What's this? What's your software? And they say, but what did you write? And I said, well, we glued it together, and we have our IP there. And they say, well, why didn't you write your own stuff? We say, because if I use best of breed, at least I'm getting a little bit closer to standards versus going out and doing something else again. So I think markets are also driving some. So I disagree to a certain extent on the real need for standards. Maybe we pick a couple of players and bet on them, like Apple or Microsoft, whatever we want to do, Eucalyptus. But as the managed services providers deliver more of an integrated offering, we can probably help accelerate some of that. And I've done it through alliances in the past, and now with a company, or I do it in that company. That might help accelerate adoption.
I think my would be on that standardization. I'm coming from the application builder perspective as a consulting company, and we've worked with many big enterprises and faced a lot of challenges getting them on the cloud. Either it's public, hybrid, or private, whichever way. And standards is something that enterprises love. Mm-hmm. That gives them certainty. That gives them the risk mitigation that is needed. So we got to have standards, and specifically in the area of security. I think that's one of the big ones for the enterprises. Got to have standard compliance in place, all clouds, some kind of standardization that gives the capability or the credibility to the cloud vendor to get accepted in the cloud.
Let's just flip that for a moment. Since you are such a disparate group, let's just flip that for a moment, Vineet, if we may. So that's the way we're headed. I don't know who was here for the session by the CTO of the Central Intelligence Agency. Anyone hear him? Do you remember how he's redefined, we had the idea of mutually assured destruction. Who remembers what he coined it now? Still mad, but he said mutually assured darkness. That's one of the things the CIA is on the lookout for. So let's seize on your idea, Frank, of trust. So we're all moving to the cloud, and we're all worrying about the potential of big data analytics, and it's all fantastic. But someone over here is saying, boy, as these guys become more and more dependent on all this incredible connectivity that I've just figured out how to disrupt. What if somebody makes you go dark? How long would it take? Just a scenario, I'm not invoking this. How long would it take then to rebuild, the sequence really of the last 10, 15 years, our trajectory towards now the cloud? I am not recommending this, I'm just wondering. He's sitting there thinking about it. What would we do? You were talking about breaches, like maybe
it depends.
It's B of A, or is it?
The perfect answer. It depends.
It depends.
Yeah, that's a perfect CTO answer. Look, the reality of it is that there's a big long continuum there. It could be never.
Okay, well that's an honest answer.
It could be never. Okay. The types of things that that people are trying to do with directed attacks, in the world today, have the ability, to take out entire power grids. If they can, be successful at at attacking power grids, then, guess what? Be a very, significant, sequence of events that have to take place in order to be able to recover from things like that. And the dependencies that we have in the world today, on primitives like power, for being able to, run everything from, iPhones to desktop computers to wireless microphones is unbelievable.
So I'm guessing the stance is we can mitigate risk, we can't eradicate it.
No, you
And frankly, if people want to get even more clever, what they do is they would go after the sources of supplying the supply chain for power, which is where the vulnerabilities actually are, and these are known risks we have in society today. So what we do is we manage risk all day long.
Another way of looking at it is that the cloud is giving us the tools, the computing capacity to get smarter to defend ourselves against such attacks.
Well, that's the techno fix, though. So I'm just wondering whether we're not too reliant on that, because we all know. I have it's an allied question, but this is just my pure ignorance. When LinkedIn lost all its passwords, do they have any kind of liability? Can anybody say something incredible just happened because of that and my career's trashed? We haven't heard of any instances, right?
Yeah, and you probably won't.
Why is
LinkedIn is one of those, most people don't pay for LinkedIn or pay for Facebook.
But am I not am I not also right to think that in Amazon there's a wonderful term somewhere down there in the agreement saying if bad things happen, that's also not a problem.
It comes down to SLAs. So
it comes down to SLAs.
Right? Yeah. So what level of SLAs you sign up with the provider, right? And then what that SLA actually does. So if you think about the primitive stuff that you want to protect and bring back, what is that thing? Is it the data? Or is it the compute? Is it the network components that you want to bring back? And then start attacking the ones that need to protect it. It could be just the disks. So people are familiar with the way Amazon handles their disk destruction in terms of protecting the privacy. Right? So that probably is, and maybe one of the things that we need to really think about.
I think SLAs, like I've come back to one of the things we think about is why we don't just go with one piece and we put the pieces together, is that enables me to offer SLAs. I can deliver a service that has an SLA on it that talks around both just the uptime, blah, 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 support, the fact that you can't read a piece of disk before somebody's written to it, all those clever things to help protect around that. And then also around architecture is more of a modular design. People believe that if you deploy cloud, you put in a couple of controllers and you add loads and loads and loads and loads of racks. If you want to be smart, you do it in blobs that all work together. So if you use one blob or one, if you want, cluster, it doesn't have a rolling effect on the other things. You've got to think about that. You can't just kind of scale out, but you modularize to isolate your risk, and you package it with SLA.
I was going to say, from a security perspective, I would argue the cloud, especially with vendors such as, actually can be safer from like an external brute force attack than even Sony's own network, because your job is to secure that infrastructure.
So let me just understand
versus
this,
an internal.
More secure because cloud is a more recent technology and
not
it's front of mind?
But they don't have the same internal politics and bureaucracies about, I would think not, people not patching, vulnerabilities in software. That's from an external attack, but from, say, an internal, the Kevin Mitnicks of the world, the social engineering kind of attack, it doesn't matter where that data is. If it's internal or in the cloud, it's still vulnerable.
But you can modularize and you can package your security principles as well.
Correct.
Like a rogue server being spun up in an office on a physical piece of hardware, how do you know that that person that's spinning it up is following all your security practices? Yep. But if you're turning that into modularized components, it's click a button, I get an app that happens to run on a server that's built like an appliance that meets my security needs. At least that customer can force some behavior. It doesn't deal with the iPad issue, the iPhone issue, and all this data flowing around, but at least it helps secure the internal components, whether it's in a public environment, a private, or a combination.
All right. Well, I didn't want to get bogged down. I promised. I actually took out, what's working. I took out what's not because I didn't want to be negative, but we sort of went there anyway. So let's deal with what's new. So that tends to be always, the good news, So, Wayne, let's just start randomly with you. What's new? I suppose you are allowed to wear your own hat, but if you do it discreetly.
Was that a personal attack?
What's new? No, it was a compliment to your elegance at saying that what's new, Jeremy, is testing in the cloud.
Well, thank you for that entree. It's funny, just to kind of tie into the rest of the conversation here, the discussion around risk and security, where if you turn it over to the application side and the testing side of the house, where Parasoft, and I have happened to reside for a number of years. The concept of risk seems to be forgotten. So it's somewhat of a binary concept from the infrastructure and cloud-based perspective. When it comes down to the application side, we take a very lackadaisical approach associated with application quality. So this gap has to be remedied somehow, some way. So I do think in terms of what's new, we're going to see kind of this trickle-down theory in terms of access and application access. And we got to shore up that gap in terms of how our applications are actually performing and should perform in any environment. So I think what's new is probably a little bit more focus on application certainty, application security, application reliability, because that gap is going to become really more evident as we move into this more distributed, more accessible environment.
I like that, application certainty. Govind, I'm being very random here, so just bear with me.
Sure. So the new thing that's happening is enterprises are trying to figure out how to move their existing applications to clouds, right? Because the cloud model is a different operating model, different way of looking at the applications. Because once you start thinking your compute is a disposable entity, right? Whether you buy from external, in public cloud or internal on-premise clouds, once they become disposable entities, the way you construct the applications will be different, right? That needs a little bit of rethinking. Because when you think about Netflix running completely on Amazon, when you try to think about your own scalable web services type of applications running inside, they are different beasts altogether. How do you take your existing application, make it much more reliable like Netflix?
Designing apps to fail over.
Exactly. It's a different way of looking at the application in terms of reliability, fault tolerance, and also taking advantage of the application's capability to move over to a public cloud and back. Right? So that needs a little bit of different thinking.
So it's the new concern is what you're saying, and it's the new prism through which you have to view what you're doing.
It's what's the next level. Again, we're talking at the applications level, right? Because the infrastructure doesn't matter, right? It should be like a serviceable entity. It doesn't matter to application guys. The applications make money. So you have to really think about how you move your applications into the cloud space.
I think
Ken,
that's
there we are. You see, Frank is just jumping in
Absolutely.
there. Go for it, Frank.
I'll do it. No question. Unit costs, around infrastructure, are changing dramatically. So the hurdle rate, is being compressed. So things that were previously completely infeasible. So being able to actually build applications, that exhibit the characteristics that you're describing, previously were in the domain of rocket science. And they're becoming, less rocket science. So they're becoming much more approachable and much more commonplace. Along with that, I think the other thing that's happening, kind of to pivot on your comment, is that you've got a very different pace, a very different cadence that you have, with respect, to how new capabilities are being introduced. And there's business opportunities being pursued, with the introduction of those new capabilities and the cadence around it, an increase in release frequency, which is very, very significant. In order to do that effectively, your quality posture, has to be very, very different. You have to have production-like characteristics, as part of the application lifecycle, as close to day zero, as possible, and from there forward. And that's new, right? That's very, very different. That's different than sitting around writing a bunch of code and saying, hey, I'm done, throwing it over to the wall to a bunch of guys, that are responsible then for having to run it, in a way, that the business can actually rely on it in terms of resiliency and consistency.
What's new, Ken? EffectiveUI is new to Cloud Expo, so I'm thinking you're new to the ecosystem. So what's EffectiveUI seeing that's missing?
Well, when you think of what's new, so much is new. And if you look at platform as a service, and you look at all the different services that are supposed to fit in that bucket, it's wide-ranging. And if you try to explain it to someone, and a client even, and you're trying to tell them that this is the same service level or service model, really it's analogous to, it's an animal. But what type of animal is it, and how can you use that to form a solution for your clients and build a compelling application? And some of that's great because it allows for great innovation in the industry, but then on the other hand, it also makes standardization almost impossible if you're going to allow that level of innovation within platform as a service offerings.
I feel another quick wave of consensus coming. Do we all agree that innovation is ripping like a tide?
I think that's one of the points I was going to say is new, is that it's driving innovation like nothing. So
because
I'll tell you what.
Now we dealt with I always feel we need positive measures as well. I mean, that's really marked, yes. And that's also, I think, we see that on the show floor and in the session room.
So I'll tell you what's new. What's new is that last year was the first year when we shipped more cloud-based servers than physical servers. This 20% of internet's data is going to flow through the cloud. We are seeing now that whenever we talk to enterprises, cloud is becoming a central part of their IT strategy. That's new for us. Before that, it used to be something peripheral that's need to be considered, but you don't need to go there. So that's new for us. And I think the biggest use case, the big data use case, that's new for the cloud. Cloud is getting leveraged and very effectively driving the innovation in big data because it allows companies which are resource constrained, who don't have the ability to put in 1,000 node clusters. They can get access very economically, drive the innovation through the access to the cloud.
Well, this is what Frank was saying, yes?
Yep.
The democratization of IT, the huge opportunities. So consensus is close to breaking out, which is always worrying. So let's see if we can split you a little bit. None of you, I think, I may not have been listening hard enough, have mentioned mobility, which surprises me.
In the IT
we're talking
space,
of all these drivers, and we're talking of all these things that we agree about, and all the things that are new, and nobody mentions mobility. Am I reading the wrong newspaper?
well, mobility is an access mechanism to gain access to the applications or the data stores which are leveraging a cloud platform.
So I shouldn't get too excited.
The way I look at it, I see a cloud platform as being a multi-purpose tool where applications are consumed either like appliances or just things that people want to get to. When you get into your cloud, it should behave like an iPad. I want this. And it follows some standards that have been laid out by whoever's provisioning, be it an IT department or be it a service provider. And mobility is just a way to get to that. So cloud accelerates the propagation and the access to that data and those materials via those mobile devices. And now with the magic controls we have to kill stuff off on those devices and protect our data, it's even better, right? So that's where we see mobility play. And I also see cloud as being a complete multi-purpose platform. Yeah, it can run everything. It can run your VoIP switches, your databases, your websites, your media servers, whatever you want. That's what I see as being new, as people understanding that now it's not just for developers. It's not just for Microsoft Exchange. It can be used for all my IT resources, be it in a box in a site, it's a technology, or in a public cloud environment, or a mix of both. That's what it is. That's what's new. I think the IT guys are getting it. I think some of the service providers are not getting it because they don't know how to sell it. But, we're still very server-centric, but we need to be more application-centric.
All right. I want to just go back to that risk thing. I don't know if it's something you said, Wayne, or I'm just imagining it, but one of the things you were saying is business is ignoring that gap. If business is also ignoring some of the risk elements of cloud, why are we constantly saying, cloud is not a technology, it's a new way of doing business? If that new way of doing business isn't doing basic risk analysis, it seems odd, it seems contradictory.
So I'll tie in mobility to this too, which is also interesting, is that with mobility, I think what we're also seeing is driving down the switching costs associated with applications.
Right.
So we're at an absolute low point, whether it's SaaS, whether it's mobile applications. I don't know how many different apps I bought for $1 on my iPhone that I've deleted because they didn't do what I wanted it to do. But this concept of having a quality experience, whether it is the quality of the application itself or the UI is doing what I expect it to do. I won't name names in terms of the apps itself, but it's either going to drive you to deletion or it's going to basically be one of your priority type interfaces on your mobile device. So the focus associated with capturing your audience and keeping them is going to be a quality-driven experience. And I think this is where the risk shifts, because we used to have that captured end user who you knew because you were an ERP or a large system, or you knew they spent a tremendous amount of money on integration, that they weren't going to dump you.
Right, they were invested. So
switching costs are low. So the paradigm switches dramatically, and risk is now right back down on the brand and the organization producing the software.
all right. They've had a long day. You've had a long day, but we don't want to just let them go without giving just something. There's a German word, I think, an ear snail, something that sticks in your ear and that you can remember. So let's see if we can elicit these sort of mini epiphanies in our audience. Let's go along the lines of that you were good at agreeing, and you were quite succinct, I noticed, when we were saying what the cloud isn't. So let's now flip that on its head, and let's leave them with a thought. We'll start with you, Ken, if that's all right. We'll end with Vineet and go down the middle. Let's send the audience away, because we're talking now, thinking we're going to know what's new, what's next. So how about the sentence just begins something like, what's next in cloud computing is, and it doesn't have to be one word, it could be three, but it certainly shouldn't be 11. So we'll start with you, sir.
Well, cloud computing for EffectiveUI is a rich, fertile ground for application development and realization that we've not yet seen or realized. The sophistication in which applications will have in the next coming year will make 2.0 applications look rudimentary.
37 words, but eloquent.
Thank you.
Eloquent.
I had 38, but I
Darryl, see if you can undercut him.
Simple and easy.
Oh, you done?
It should be simple and easy. That's what's being next. That's what I'm
What's next in cloud computing is
simple and easy.
Might have a few of his words.
No, you can share them later.
All right.
Govind, what's next in cloud computing is?
On the infrastructure as a service side, it is the API standardization.
Stop, because that is a strong message. Stop, good. It really is.
great enabler.
What's next in cloud computing is, got to be grammatical.
Oh, grammatical. See, I don't have the English accent. Right, so
What's next in cloud computing? You can still have to finish the thought.
Next in cloud computing, I think the ability to enable, the SMB to get up to market fast. Wait, how many words was that?
A lot.
Okay, all done.
Wayne, what's next in cloud computing is?
Application quality and user experience matters.
Nice. Frank.
What's next in cloud computing is the ability to go fast and stay safe.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
Oh, I like that. We're going to be voting on this in a minute. Vineet?
What's next in cloud computing is for it to become a utility available everywhere.
For it to become a utility. Now, you have to remember, by applause, we will applaud as we go along, and of course we'll decide who is best. So, applause relative to Ken. Family. No family.
All my relatives.
Darryl Brown. Are you interrelated? It's the same family. Govind. Hey, it's okay not to like. We need to trend it, but it was good. It was
I'll
good.
take it.
Stop. Oh, that's so polite. I thought this could be in Britain. This is New York. Wayne. Frank.
Stand up.
That's very even. Vineet. No. Okay, it's null and void. It's a whole horrible draw. I failed. Thank you so much, all 7 of you. I'm not going to repeat your company names. You can do that tomorrow for yourselves. Thank you much, more importantly, audience.
Thank you.
We'll all thank each other. I hope you enjoyed day 3.